Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Mr. Payne bringing you Unit 2, Lesson 2, Seeing Structure to Solve Equations. In today's lesson, we will be solving linear equations where the variable only occurs once. We will solve equations by seeing the structure of the expression involving x and using the structure to undo what has already been done to it. Let's take a look at exercise number 1 at the variable x and list the operations that have been done to the variable on the left side of the equation in order in which they occurred. When we say this, we're looking at this part of the expression right here. We're not concerned about the equals 23 yet because there's only one variable. I want to know the operations. So right away, think about order of operations. If I put a number in here for x, what would I do first? Well, I hope you would tell me that you would multiply by 5 or times 5. And then after we would multiply by 5, we would add 3. That's how we would solve that expression if we substituted a number in for x, and we've done that all through Unit 1. Now it says solve the equation by reversing what has been done to x. Verify that your value of x is a solution by seeing if it makes the equation true. So what that means is I'm going to now work in reverse order using the opposite of what I see. So if I see adding 3, I'm going to do subtracting 3. And when I get to times 5, I'm going to divide by 5. So let's write the equation out. 5x plus 3 equals 23. So I'm going to subtract by 3 on both sides because whatever you do on one side you have to do to the other to keep everything balanced. 5x equals 20, and then it says divide by 5 is what I have to do next. X equals 4. To check to make sure that that works, and what they mean by the check is just substitute that 4 in for the x. So I'm going to have 5 times 4 plus 3 equals 23. 5 times 4 is 20 plus 3 equals 23. So 23 equals 23. This is the most basic of all equation solving techniques. It is the most important solving technique in all of mathematics. Please be clear on this and understand this aspect that I first times by 5, added by 3, and in order to solve it I work from the bottom up in opposite order and you do the opposite operation. Solving equations by the inverse operations. If the variable you are solving for shows up only once, identify the operations that have been done on it and reverse them in the opposite order in which they occur. So let's take a look at exercise number 2, a little bit more complicated problem. Find the value of x that solves each equation. In each case, identify the operations that have occurred to x and reverse them. Show each step. So we're going to start off by just writing down our steps. What happened to x? Well, the first thing I see is we subtracted by 3. Then we have to divide by 2. And then add 7. Now if I were to reverse them and write that down, it would look like this. I'm going to write the reverse order in green. This is how I would solve the problem. I would subtract by 7, multiply by 2, add 3. Let's try it. Minus 7 on both sides. Equals 6. Multiply by 2 on both sides. It's going to give me x minus 3 equals 12. Add 3. X equals 15. I really like this part of the lesson. I really enjoy figuring out what is going on with that x. And I think that if you're a struggling equation solver, this really physically shows you what you're doing to that x and why we reverse it in order to solve it. Let's take a look at b. Let's talk about what happened to x first. I say that we added 1, then I multiply by 4. So I was multiplied by 4. Then after multiplying by 4, I subtract 2. So if I want to do that in reverse order, I'm going to say, all right, we're going to add 2, divide by 4, subtract 1. Let's try. So I'm going to add my 2 to both sides. Negative 6 plus 2 is going to give me negative 4. I'm going to now divide by 4. I'm just following what I already had written down. I'm going to get x plus 1 equals negative 1 minus 1 minus 1. X is going to equal negative 2. The last example we're going to do tonight is exercise number 3. Exercise number 3 is asking you telling you that often equations can be solved in multiple ways, and we were stressing this year, that you can do different things and still come up with the same answer, and that's totally acceptable. So in A, we're going to use reverse operations like we have been, and then in B, we're going to use the distributive property first. So I will do the first problem in blue, and the second problem I will do in green, so we can see the difference. So we're going to reverse order just like we did using reverse operations. So we're going to do minus 8 on both sides. Negative 2 times x minus 4 equals negative 6. Now I'm going to divide by negative 2. X minus 4 equals positive 3, plus 4 on both sides. X equals 7. Now that's using the reverse the operations. Now we're going to use the distributive property. I'm going to take this negative 2 and I'm going to multiply it in first. And I'm going to say negative 2x plus 8. Why did I get plus 8? Negative 2 times negative 4 gives me plus 8. Plus 8 equals 2. So I'm going to have negative 2x plus 16 equals 2. Now, regardless what you do now we have to go to the reverse operations method, because now I have to subtract 16. Negative 2x equals negative 14. Divide by negative 2. X is going to give me a positive 7. Both answers are the same. Okay, so we know that both methods work. The only difference between the two methods is this first step right here, when we have to multiply the negative 2 in. Instead of dividing by negative 2, we multiplied it in. Now's the time to write your WSQ, talk about any hints, tricks, anything you learned that's different. I know that the reversing the operations method and writing those operations down definitely made solving equations clearer for me as an instructor, and that's something new that I learned and never seen before. So I hope that that's also new for you. Have a great evening.